What is up, everybody? While I continue to, impatiently wait for NFL Game Pass to restore the All-22 film so I can continue my Top 100 series, I want to bring you guys something a little bit different. I know, we have the Pepsi Players of the Week. Isn't that a thing that the NFL promotes every week? Well, how many games are they really watching over there at Pepsi? I think that's a very fair question that nobody seems to be asking. Whereas, me, on the other hand, I've watched almost every game in the NFL this week. And if you guys want to join me, you can do so at my Twitch channel. I went live and did live watch-alongs for 8 of them over the past couple days. Twitch.tv/MikeDuckFootball. But I think from this point on, we are officially relieving Pepsi of all their duties, regarding the top players of the week. Go back to focusing on, soft drinks. I got this one. And with that being said, let's hop right in. And what better place to start than Chandler Jones, the outside linebacker for the Arizona Cardinals, who, last year he missed the majority of the season with a right biceps injury. Had surgery, missed, I want to say, 11 games. So this was his first game back. There were questions regarding, how he would look, and I don't think you can look much better than 5 sacks and 2 forced fumbles as an edge rusher, just terrorizing Ryan Tannehill all day, multiple times, beating Taylor Lewan around the edge. You see him there hitting a really nice swim move to bring down Derrick Henry. Just phenomenal in all facets, right? As a pass rusher, as a run defender. He's going to be on my top 100 series at some point whenever that series does continue, but I'm already questioning whether or not he should be higher, because this game, if this is a sign of things to come, he very well might break the sack record, right? It's only 22.5 by Strahan, and with that added 17th game, the fact that he's already at 5, he only has to average just over 1 a game from this point on to break it. That's certainly something we need to be looking out for, and certainly a guy that deserves to be known as one of the top performers in week 1. Another guy who certainly deserves it is Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford. This offseason they traded a whole lot for him. 2 future first-round picks, a third-round pick, as well as Jared Goff. And when you put all your eggs so heavily in one basket, you need your basket to look good. And if this past week was any indication, Stafford's going to work for this team, right? Just did a phenomenal job carving up this Bears defense, really on every level, right? You see him, placing the ball perfectly deep there to Van Jefferson, who's able to somehow get up and score. You see him just dotting guys up in the intermediate and short games as well, and just a phenomenal performance, right? In terms of his stat line, he went 20 for 26, had 3 touchdowns, 0 INTs, for 321 yards. He had the highest passer rating on the day. Just a phenomenal debut performance in primetime on Sunday Night Football. It doesn't get much better than that in your debut with the team. It's kind of funny, as a Lions fan, I've seen him for years doing this to Bears defenses, and it's finally nice for him to be getting recognition for doing it in front of a little bit of a bigger audience now in Los Angeles. But you see it here, just threading the needle to Cooper Kupp downfield. There wasn't anybody within 10 yards of him, some busted coverage, but still hits him right in stride. Just a beautiful, beautiful play there. Hitting Tyler Higbee's opposite shoulder, and then hitting him in stride on that one. Just phenomenal stuff, right? There's not enough that you can say about a performance like this. I know there were some questions about how would he fit in McVay's offense. He loves to have the QBs on the move. There's been a couple plays, and even plays that I didn't show you guys, where he looked very good and comfortable outside the pocket as well. So just very, very solid all-around game from Stafford. He's my first offensive player of the week. Another guy who needs a little bit of recognition is Las Vegas Raiders defensive end Maxx Crosby. He's a guy that I don't want to say had a star-making performance, but this is the type of performance that if you can string a couple of them together over the course of the season, you will become a star, right? I would say this was a top 5 defensive end worthy performance, right? So the question is, was it just a flash in the pan, or will it be a continued sight on this Raiders defense? I know 6 total tackles, 2 sacks officially. He had 5 quarterback hits, just absolutely terrorizing Alejandro Villanueva, Ronnie Stanley at points, and ultimately Lamar Jackson. I didn't show you guys all the plays, just some of the more notable ones, as you see the nice sack on Lamar there, but I probably could have showed you guys another 10 plays where Lamar is scrambling around the pocket trying to find something, and the guy chasing him is Maxx Crosby, right? It was just that dominant of a game where it looked like there was ultimately no resistance on the edges, on really either edge. And I can't place all the blame on Villanueva. There has to be some on Stanley, but either way, a phenomenal game. And you see him doing a good job setting the edge there. Had a couple nice plays against the run. You see him in overtime going stride for stride with Omar, forcing a bad throw. You see him again just outworking Villanueva on the edge. And then ultimately, you have really the final Ravens offensive play of the game, right? And, watch how much attention he gets by the right side of this Ravens O-line. You have both Villanueva and Zeitler go for him and focus on him on this play, and essentially that gives Carl Nassib a free release off that edge, and ultimately he's able to force a fumble on Omar and essentially seal the game, right? It was just continued dominance and continued, I would say, just disruption, right? Because even when he wasn't necessarily making the tackle, he was still a lot of times making the play, and that's why, for me, he's my second defensive top performer of the week. Just a great performance by Maxx Crosby. And unlike Crosby, the next guy is obviously more of a household name, Tyreek Hill. But even though we all know what he's capable of, it doesn't make it any less impressive, right? He went out against this Cleveland Browns defense and had 11 receptions for 197 yards, led the entire league in week 1, and had a really critical touchdown as well, which we'll see in a little bit. Just a phenomenal day in terms of, again, kind of as I was talking about with Stafford working all 3 levels of the defense. Tyreek did that on his own in this game, right? You're going to see multiple deep shots, as you have one there. You saw some intermediate already to this point, some short as well. Just does a great job working every level of the defense and making plays everywhere he goes on the field. Just a phenomenal day for him. This was a game that Cleveland led for the vast majority of it, but with Tyreek Hill and Pat Mahomes, really anything is possible on the flip side, and they were able to come back and ultimately win, obviously with some help from Travis Kelce and the defense as well, but Tyreek was really the number one guy in this game. You're seeing him just get multiple first downs, did a great job just helping move the chains for this Kansas City offense, just creating sustained drives. And you have ultimately what I would say is the biggest play of the game, a crazy roll out to his right, throw downfield for the 75-yard touchdown to Tyreek Hill. But a great job by Tyreek adjusting to this ball. You're going to see it on the replay. Stops on an absolute dime, adjusts to the ball, and then just turns away from the defender and essentially walks in the end zone. And this play really sparked the beginning of the end for the Browns, right? They were still up after this, but when they gave up the ball to the Chiefs there in one play, one touchdown, that was a bad look. And I would say that was definitely the beginning of the end. And then after they had the lead, obviously, just again, continuing to help move the chains with yet another solid reception. Just a great game by Tyreek. And even though he's a well-known commodity, needs to be recognized here. My final top performer on the defensive side of the ball is Carolina Panthers linebacker Shaq Thompson, who just put together a crazy game, and it's one that I feel like is going under the radar a little bit, so I got to bring attention to it, right? Phenomenal play here with the pass deflection on Tevin Coleman lined up out wide, but all in all, he ultimately ends up having 10 total tackles in this game, a sack, 2 pass deflections, and an INT, which leads to Carolina's first points on the year. So, all in all, kind of all over the place in this game, right? You see the INT there. We'll replay it back another time or two, but just a ridiculous game. Excelled at everything the Panthers defense asked him to do, right? Whether it was, we saw it on the first play, man coverage out on the edge against the running back, one-on-one. Whether it was zone coverage here in the middle of the field, sinking back, reading Zach Wilson's eyes. Whether it was, against the run, taking on blocks, shooting gaps. Whether it was blitzing, he was involved in a couple different stunts on this game. Just very solid all around, and like I said, probably isn't getting the respect that he deserves. Just a great play on that INT though. That's phenomenal. And Zach Wilson's first career INT. I think that's a bad throw, but it's an even better play by Thompson, to say the least, right? But as I was saying, I think that he's a guy who, if he's able to string together performances like this over the course of the year, kind of like I said for Crosby, he could assert himself into potentially a Pro Bowl discussion, right? Because, when you're going to stuff the stat sheet like this in so many different facets, people are eventually going to have to take notice. And I think with Thompson, it's even more interesting because when we were talking about how good the Panthers defense could potentially be prior to the year starting, it was because of guys like Brian Burns or Jeremy Chin, or, could Derek Brown take the next step? Or what about J.C. Horn, who they drafted, right? Thompson wasn't a name that really came up in that discussion. And after this performance, I think he's showing people that it certainly should have, right? You see him on the blitz there. Look at how tight he bent that, right around the first guy crossing on that blitz. Just phenomenal stuff, and ultimately just a phenomenal game by Thompson. My final top performer on the week is 49ers wide receiver Deebo Samuel. And, a lot of people I think are kind of underselling what Deebo did this past week just because it's the Lions. But if I told you how things went for the rest of this 49ers team against the Lions, you would think the 49ers lost if it wasn't for Deebo, right? If I told you that Raheem Mostert gets hurt in the first quarter and Trey Sermon was ruled inactive before the game, if I told you that, Nick Bosa was pretty well neutralized on the other side of the ball by Penei Sewell, if I told you that George Kittle had 4 receptions, less than 80 yards, and no touchdowns, Brandon Ayuk doesn't get a catch at all he has is 1 punt return for 7 yards, you think the Lions win that game, but they don't. And the reason that they didn't, at least from my perspective, was in large part Deebo Samuel. He just kind of did it all for this team. He had 9 total receptions for 189 yards and a touchdown, and was really a consistent factor all throughout the game. You're going to see him here. This was his biggest play, as he doesn't really create much separation on Jeff Okudah there, but kind of similar to that Tyreek Hill touchdown, does a great job stopping on a dime, adjusting to the ball, and then just reversing back across the field for the walk-in touchdown. And it turns out that they ultimately needed all of these points in this game, as the Lions didn't quit. They ended up bringing it within 8 in the final moments, but without Deebo, I think that this 49ers team loses this game, based on all the stuff I read you previously. And in that regard, he's a guy that I think needs to get recognized. He's somebody that really, since he's entered the league, he's always at the top of the league in terms of his yak per reception, right? He's one of the best in the NFL after the catch. You saw that on display in this game. He, struggles with injuries every now and then. That's been a concern, no question. But in this game, was fully healthy and fully dominant. So with that being said, if you guys enjoyed this video, if you want to see more where that came from, or if you want to watch the games with me, you can do so on Twitch, you can do so on YouTube. Make sure you guys leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Go follow my Twitch. It'll be in the description down below. And with that being said, I'm mic'd up and I'm mic'ing out. Peace, guys.